is rural. A little bit more than 45% of the district is rural. So one issue that keeps arising in this district is economic development. Right now, the economy and housing has this district upside down, meaning we have for housing, if you're getting an apartment, your rent, or renting an apartment, renting a home, whichever, your rent is going to run you between $800 to $1,000, which is pretty steep in a market where majority of the jobs are paying $10 an hour max. The minimum wage here in Alabama is still, I want to say, between $5 and $7 still. It hasn't changed since like 1976. So it's upside down, right? So with this being a major concern for all of us here, or at least what I keep hearing in my interactions, one thing that I thought of, especially with the onset of the Trump tariffs in 2016 to the COVID-related inflation, then now we have another set of Trump tariffs, right? One thing that could help this district is insulating, meaning turning inward and making sure that you are spending your dollars within your district, okay? That's one aspect. Two, identify the areas that are in the most need, that are the most underrepresented. There we go. That is a good question because of gerrymandering. Actually, yes. However, this district was redistricted to represent its growing black or minority population. So due to gerrymandering in the past, federal courts demanded the redistricting of this district to better represent the constituents. The issue with that is we might have our current congressional representative is a Democrat, Black American male. However, our senators are white American, one female, one male, and that's not necessarily the problem. The problem is when you get to these counties. These counties are run by families. So if you get into like Conecuh County is run by 4 families. These 4 families have had their way, they're running their leadership of the county for at least the last 100 years. And that is now interfering with the county's board of commissioners. So the county can't move forward. So if there are any plans for federal funding, any plans for growth, any plans for economic development, they clash with these families because the families are like, no, I want to keep all of the business. These families run all of the family-owned businesses. So when we're talking about family and local run business, it's one of 4 families that run all the business, which is fine. I don't necessarily have a problem with that in and of itself. The issue comes when it clashes with the board of commissioners. So the board of commissioners might want to be more progressive, and because it affects those families directly, they will threaten to pull their money out of the county. It is a total mess. So there are areas of opportunity. So on here, this is the district's economic portfolio. And when you're looking at a district's economic portfolio, you're looking at the industries that are in the district, how strong those industries are, and you're also waging that against its poverty and its unemployment rate. The state of Alabama has one of the highest poverty rates in the nation. All of the counties within the 2nd Congressional District is above the nation's poverty rate. As you can see here, the U.S. poverty rate is 11.1. Alabama is 15.6. However, Bullock County is 33.6, double that of the state. When you're looking at Bullock County also, you'll see Bullock over here is heavy in agriculture. However, again, looking back, if you consider 2016 tariffs, COVID-related inflation, 2025 tariffs, you can see how the poverty rate is 33.6. It is bleeding that county dry. They're trying to survive, but it's just blow after blow after blow, you know? So again, this creates an opportunity to you identify opportunity zones. So of course, Butler would be one, Bullock would be one, Conecuh, Covington, Monroe, and Washington. And the reason why these are opportunity zones is because we're in a tech boom. So these would be great to bring technology. It would be great to bring trade jobs, trade education as well. So when you're looking at this district and how it's being misrepresented, right? Because it's being represented as is, but there's no projection for the future. This is a prime opportunity to create an update, if you will. Just like we update our phones, it's time to update the district. So because our agriculture industry has taken such a harsh blow, right? They've been promised loans, promised subsidies, promised grants, and then with each trade war, it just goes up in smoke, and then that's followed by inflation. So since our agriculture is struggling so heavily or so harshly or so poorly, if you will, this might be a great opportunity to bring in tech, right? To bring in trade. Because again, with these houses, yes, the rent is $800, $900, $1,000, but they're just above shack level, if you will. They're just above the standards of your backwoods shack, right? So you're paying metropolitan prices for poorly upgraded, material or structures in an economy where majority people are making minimum wage, which is again $5 to $7 to the max $10 an hour. It just doesn't make sense. It just does not make sense. So I want to hear from you, Adrian, because you're in Texas. So what are some of your concerns down in your area where you are?
Hey, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Concerns around here are, I don't know enough about Austin to tell you. Austin is pretty rich and they've invested a lot in tech. But that also gives a lot of the tech giants freedom to do what they want. So like the tax structure is really, really attractive, but a lot of the tech companies that have moved in have not helped Austin with infrastructure. And the people who represent us don't often require enough. And they'll also allow outsourcing or privatized investment. So if they want to get like highway infrastructure built, they'll let somebody's friend do it. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Horrible. And you're making too much money.
But, it's tough. Young people can't afford to live here. People who are, newly moving or newly starting out in any way have, like a life stressor. It can be devastating. And rents here are probably, I think 1,200 is kind of the average, but that's a pretty low average, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I totally understand. Yes. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just interested to hear what you're saying. I mean, I'm wondering, has been a problem when any specific place in America has tried to update industry and just saying retraining is the option, where people don't seem to want to be retrained. Or maybe there's, I'm not sure whether it's really defined as a lack of interest or a lack of, I don't know how to put it. if you're trying to change the logging industry in, say, Oregon or like the upper, Midwest, you can't just retrain people to be computer technicians. And it's not really a lack of capacity, right? I mean, I think everybody has the capacity, but if there's not the drive to do it, if a guy who's been working out in a logging field all day and actually finds fulfillment in that, you can't just hand them something on a silver platter. So I'm wondering, how do you guys plan to deal with that shift?
That is a great question. So how I look at it is it's two sides of the same coin, right? You know how our elders would say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So on one end is that. You can't teach an old dog new tricks because the old dog is stubborn. They're used to the tricks that they're used to doing, right? But then on the other end, maybe the dog wants to learn the new tricks, or the dog understands that the new tricks are needed, but they just don't feel like they're the ones to do it. So it's an opportunity to bring in others. So with these, if you see the screen where it says opportunity, and I have those 5 counties listed, all of those counties are slated for growth. But you cannot bring people here because you won't be able to sustain, right? Because again, the market is upside down. So if you bring those new people in at the same time as bringing the tech, you can train those new people because they're coming in for that. People here may not be interested, but there are other opportunities. There are other places where their voice is just as important, because you still need insight, right? In order to know how to do a thing, you got to know how to do a thing. And technology doesn't necessarily give you that insight. It's just like when we go and get our degrees, and that's great, right? It proves that we are teachable, we're learnable, but when we get hired in our career, we're going to be trained to do whatever it is that they want us to do anyway, right? So it's just a little bit of, it's like that concept. But in order to be trained, someone has to have some hands-on experience, right? So then that can be paired with the technology, almost like a consultant in that type of capacity. They're still needed. And of course, it's not a do away with the old ways, but it's our version of taking advice, gleaning from those old ways and incorporating it into the new. So those people, the logger that used to being out, logging and everything, his or her insight is still required, because technology is not going to know. AI is great in some capacities, but some areas of problem solving is going to require someone that has been out in that field, if that makes sense.
Right. Yep.
So, I guess I'm not going to hold you too long, but I wanted to, I guess we